And if you're thinking of removing your popcorn ceiling, you must follow this important instruction. Let's talk about stucco ceilings. Good old popcorn. Love it or hate it. I'm just kidding. We all hate it, right? This video was heavily inspired by an article that I saw called "Why Are Popcorn Ceilings No Longer Popular? When did stucco go out of style?" The thing is, popcorn ceilings and stucco and textured ceilings, these have existed for decades, both for stylistic reasons, but also practical reasons. If you're thinking about a builder's perspective, making a nice, perfect flat ceiling, making sure all the joints are perfect, everything's level and smooth, that sounds like a nightmare. Wouldn't you rather do like a 75% job and then just cover it with popcorn so you don't have to worry about making it perfect? Well, that's what builders do. Stucco is a much easier solution because it hides those imperfections beautifully. And unfortunately for people like me in the painting business, when I was working in it, we would remove more and more stucco ceilings with every month that passed. People were just like sick of it and they wanted those nice, smooth, flat ceilings throughout their house. Problem is, once you take off that stucco, you get to see what's underneath, and oftentimes not so cute. But personally, I don't mind textured ceilings in some circumstances. Popcorn is the exception because it is so invasive looking. It looks like stalagmites or whatever those things are called in caves. But you also have your skip trowel ceilings, those knockdown ceilings where essentially it looks like it was stucco popcorn at one point, but then they were kind of shaved off. So you have a more chilled out texture. And I actually have that upstairs in my living room. I really don't mind it at all. I'm living with it. It's fine. And then of course you have your like swirled ceilings, like that kind of Roman Italian style or whatever. I think it looks cool. Maybe not for everyone, but the consensus is popcorn is like a big no-no. So in this video, we're going to talk about why it's gone out of style. And I think for the most part, it's largely to do with the fact that it was hazardous to your health. Popcorn ceilings from like the 60s and 70s or whatever, they had asbestos in them, at least trace amounts, which is not good for you. We all know that. So although that might have started the distancing away from it, now it's purely aesthetic. So what are some alternatives to popcorn ceilings that you can use according to this article? I mean, the first one is a good old coffered ceiling. And what's nice about this is you can still kind of mask an uneven ceiling a little bit if you have some nice woodwork to put up and kind of distract your eye. You obviously don't want it to be insanely bumpy or otherwise all that woodwork isn't really going to sit nicely. But what's great about it is it does make a room feel taller, I find. And you can also add some crown molding, like in this example here, that's a little bit lowered, so you can have some accent lighting around there. Gives you way more options. And you can go more traditional with like a waffled look and just go for squares, or you can go for this octagonal pattern with squares in between. A lot of fun you can do. You can peruse the internet for all kinds of ideas there. You can also go with creative color choices. So in this example, it almost looks like the ceiling has a bit of a smooshing, marbleized ragging technique happening. A bit dated for me. Again, the same way we're removing stucco ceilings, we're also painting over ragging and smooshing that we did like 15 years ago. I would maybe just recommend going with an accent ceiling, like an accent color. I think that's more fun, especially in smaller spaces. Like powder rooms is like the best place to experiment with an accent ceiling, I find, once you've taken off that pesky popcorn. Although I often find that popcorn ceilings usually aren't in places like kitchens and bathrooms, probably due to the amount of moisture that are in those spaces, but I digress. You can go with wallpaper, maybe. Don't know if I like this look. Very, very busy. Paint a feature wall above, so they're reusing the same one from 2 numbers ago. Well, I guess you can go all Art Deco, geometrical. I mean, the saving grace of this example is the fact that it is playing off that sliding door. Patterns are similar. It's a bit of a back and forth kind of vibe, which is nice. Very modern, like old school modern. And if all else fails and you've scraped off all that popcorn to see a disaster of a ceiling, you can just add warmth with wood. Number 5. Whether you go with real pieces of rustic wood repurposed, or you go with something a little more low-key like MDF or some sort of paneling, you can apply that like you would an accent wall, and now you're covering up the mess that you made. And if you're thinking of removing your popcorn ceiling, you must follow this important instruction, okay? Promise me? If you're about to partake on this messy, monumental journey of popcorn ceiling removal, you have to test to see if it's been painted first. The way that I do this with every project is I just get a little stepladder and then I scratch that popcorn ceiling. If it comes off very easily, it's unlikely to have been painted, which means it's going to be be really easy to remove if you're doing the good old scraping technique. If it's not coming off, then it's probably been painted at least once, maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe with an oil-based paint, which means it's really going to be sealed in and it's going to be a nightmare to scrape. Oftentimes, you got to either get like a heavy-duty mechanical device or you just need to re-skim it with plaster. It's sometimes even worth it to just replace the drywall altogether. If this sounds daunting to you, just hire a professional. Let them do it for you. What do you think of textured ceilings? Not just popcorn, but the other ones we talked about. And also, what do you think about these ideas to replace your popcorn ceiling? Please let me know. We have more videos right over here all about painting and decorating.